Welcome to Sound Mind, and I am your host today, Teresa Pryor. I know normally you're used to seeing Brian Collier, but today I'm your host, and we are so excited to be here with you on today. We want to thank each and every one of you for sharing and for being here with us, where we hope to help you understand how to connect Jesus and mental health. And we are just super excited to have you joining in with us. We want to Before we get started, I just want to take the time to thank our executive producer, Dr. E. Dewey Smith, for making this platform possible for us all, for helping us during this time and at Hope TV for our audience. And I also want to thank those people that are behind the scenes that are making this thing work and tick so that we can be here for you. I am super, super, super excited because I have a special guest today that I can't wait to introduce you to. Her name is Marsha Thompson, and you are in for a treat today. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Marsha Thompson, I know her personally, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. I know she's a pastor. I know she's a mother. I know that she's a therapist, and I know she's a coach. She does a lot of things. And so she's going to come today and help us understanding in this pandemic that we are in. We want to talk about our kids. There's a lot going on out there, but what we want to talk about today is that our kids have feelings too. And because of that, we want to just kind of talk about where this maybe has landed our kids, some of the things that our children may be dealing with, um, just some of the stigmas, and then some of the things that they're really going through during this time. And so I would like for you to please welcome Marsha Thompson with us today. Come on, Sound My audience. Let's welcome Marsha Thompson with us today. Marsha? Hi,
Hi,
Marsha.
Teresa.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sound
I'm
Mind. We're
glad
so
to be
happy to have
here.
you with us. We are so happy to have you with us. I'm excited because you're my first guest, and I'm giddy about that. I really, really am, and I'm super excited for multiple reasons. But um, today we have what I think is a very serious conversation that we need to, really discuss. 2020 um, landed us in a really precarious place. And we really went through a lot in 2020. We have crossed over into 2021, and some would say better, some would say 2021's the sequel. Hmm, okay. But in 2020, as we all know, during this pandemic, we've been kind of locked in. We are now experiencing things reopening and kids going back to school and things like that. But one of the things that we experience is that our kids, along with us, but mostly our kids as well, having to be shut in, the whole virtual learning piece. And we are probably, even though we're on the ends of it now, we are probably now noticing that our children have experienced some things. So I would like for you to just help us today. Number one, let's talk through first what this pandemic um, and what this pandemic has, what kind of ramifications may our children may have faced from this pandemic. So can you just speak to us, talk to us about um, where they could possibly be and some things that you are seeing from the pandemic and our children?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for this honor and this privilege of being here. So excited.
Absolutely.
When you think about the pandemic and you think about the fact that this took place, well, as far as the United States, we were made aware of it mainly in March of 2020, which is a year ago. And most of us may have thought that it was going to just be a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a break. Children may thought they had a little bit of a school, break.
Yeah.
unexpected.
Yeah.
However, this has lasted much longer than any of us thought. And
Yes.
yes, there are ramifications. You know, when it comes to a pandemic, that's a worldwide disease, that's an infection
Hmm. Hmm.
that affects everybody in different ways. And I was super excited to find out that Sound Mind wanted to address this particular issue when it comes to our children and their feelings. I, as a therapist, have the privilege of working with children every single day of the week through therapy. And all of this is, you know, they children are in therapy all over the United States because children have their feelings and they have needs, emotions, and things that need to be worked on, mental health needs, all kinds of needs. Then on top of that, now comes a pandemic. Okay,
Hmm.
so the long
Hmm.
term ramifications can be something like, okay, let's talk about. Um, I've jotted down a few things, so I want to mention these. Socially deficiency. What is that? That's the fact that children, we are used to being around people. You know, we love to have fun. Children like to go outside and play. They want to be with their peers, their friends. Children from kindergarten, pre-K, all the way up to
Hmm.
college students. And
Yeah.
so it has affected everybody. So the long term ramifications could be this is going to affect children and the way they interact with each other because there has been a pandemic. There has been a long pause, if you will, with them being able to be with their peers or their friends. Family interruption. That's another one that we hadn't thought
Hmm.
about how that affects our children. What am I mean about that? Dealing with the fact that one of my family members got COVID. They maybe had to go
Hmm.
to the hospital and I couldn't go see them, my grandparent. Not to even mention the grief that's attached to this. The loss
Hmm.
of family members, loss of friends, loss of teachers. You know, people
Yeah.
having to
Yes.
change
Yes.
routine. You know,
Yeah.
changing routine. What do I mean by that? Just the fact that we normally get up, go to school, and get ready, you know, get on the bus and head to school and learn. Well, now we've
Right.
all been in the we've been in the house together. We're not going to school. Some of
Hmm.
us are headed back now, but mainly most of us were out for a long period of time. So that's an
Yeah.
interruption in the routine. And so that does a
Yeah.
lot to someone's psyche. You know, I got to make a
Hmm.
change because my norm is different. I have to
Yeah.
adjust to a quote new norm. And so
Yeah.
all of that is long term ramifications that could affect, you know, it's like maybe having a little bit of PTSD, if you will, because
Yes.
I am now going through a traumatic experience. Yes, the world
Hmm.
has too, but it's affected me as
Hmm.
a child. And so that has ramifications. You're about to say something, Teresa?
Yes. So, how do as parents, because some parents are in the home, some parents are outside of the home, some parents still had to go back to work, some parents are
Yeah.
in the home with their children and working in the home. Ask you two questions. For those that are in the home, because they're there and in those spaces all the time, there sometimes can be some anxiety between parents and children because they're in that space all the time and they have been for the past 11, 12 months. So they may not see or notice some of the changes with their children because they too are at a place of anxiety and tired, and they're feeling that. So you have that, you got that, and then you have parents that have gone back out to the workplace, and you have children that are having to stay home, and some of them having to grow up earlier than they, because they're back to what we used to call latchkey kids, and where they're at home by
Yeah.
themselves. And so how do parents make that adjustment, and then how would they be able to identify or notice different issues with their children, if their children are having any issues? How can they notice or identify any behavioral issues or social issues, with their children, for a parent, how can they identify those things? What are things that they should maybe be looking out for?
Okay. To address your first question about those that are going out to work, um, glad, first of all, that they are able to work because we know that there's been
Absolutely.
great loss of employment. However,
Absolutely.
there needs to be a great support system for that parent. It needs to be. I deal with foster children, and a lot of times parents are having challenges going back to work because they're having to choose whether I go to work or I stay here and watch the
Yes.
children.
Yes.
You know, so that's a
Yes.
major, major issue. So a great support
Absolutely.
system would be wonderful. A neighbor, a good neighbor that you trust, a family member that
Mm-hmm.
you can trust, finding out what's in the community that may be available. There are daycare centers that are taking children whereby they can, watch the children while the mother or father works or grandparent, whoever
Mm-hmm.
is the person that is taking care. And then those that are in the home, parents that are working in the home, they have a major adjustment that they have to do because they're trying to
Yes.
work and they're trying to
Yeah.
teach and they're trying to
Yes.
manage the
Yes.
home. So it's a
Yes.
lot of stress attached to that. And so they have to make sure that they kind of, I would say, maybe set some boundaries, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
whereby they're watching, this is our time. Have a schedule, if you will. Something simple as a schedule. This is our school learning time. This is our break.
Yes.
This is mommy time.
Yes.
This is your time. I know that that can be challenging for some people because in reality, everybody doesn't stay in a large space. So you may be having to share that table with a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different things. That's the
Yes.
reality. However, it's
Absolutely.
just trying to manage that and balance all of that. That can be very stressful. That's why that support system is important. That's why even parents and grandparents and the guardians, they have to pay attention to how they're feeling too, so that they can
Mm-hmm.
manage their own anxiety, their own stress. So
Absolutely.
because that affects the child and how the child feeling. Now, um, getting back to what are the signs? The signs
Mm-hmm.
are could be just a plethora of things. It could be
Mm-hmm.
something like maybe a pre-K or kindergarten, a small child that's used to getting out doing things and really can't quite understand what's going on. So they may be a little clingy. They may be
Mm-hmm.
whiny. They may have some nightmares and disruption in their sleep patterns because they sense some things that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
An older
Mm-hmm.
child may be a little isolated. They may become,
Mm-hmm.
they're losing interest in the things that they normally, would do, love to do. Want to
Okay.
talk about the pandemic, they're hearing things in the news. They are a little afraid. So a little anxiety is
Mm-hmm.
building up. A little fear is building up. I recommend as a therapist that it's so important for the parent, the guardian, the foster parent, whoever, to make sure that you're present. And I don't mean just in the room, but pay attention to the signs. And don't,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, what do I say? Don't dismiss a sign that could be important
Oh wow.
because we
Okay.
need to, yeah,
Okay.
to pay attention to what our children are saying and what they're not saying. They may
Right.
not know how to
Right.
say, I'm
Wow.
afraid, I'm scared. And so they need to
Yes.
feel like, even with mommy and dad and grandmother and auntie and whoever, they need to feel safe to be able to talk about their feelings.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very important
Yeah.
because what we don't want
Yeah.
our children to do is close up and close in.
Right.
They want to
Right.
be able
Right.
to express
Right.
how they feel, and then we may have to help them to express that.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, let me ask you this because I thought about something. What about the child? What would a child do? You just said sometimes children don't know how to express themselves. So how do for a child who doesn't know how to express themselves, how do they do that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? If you have children who don't know how to should let me back up before we answer that. Let me ask you this question. During this pandemic, is it wise to talk about what's going on with children? Is that too much? Is it, is that overwhelming for them? Will they understand? Is that a good topic? What are your thoughts just in regards to having a conversation about what's going on?
That's a very good question. I think that when it comes to children and talking to them about what's going on, just like with any situation that may be going on in the home, going on with the family, whatever that situation may be, um, I think you need to be very aware of what your child is able to digest. And when I
Okay.
say that, not too much.
Okay.
A smaller child would not understand. A child that may be 6 years
Hmm.
old may understand the fact that there's a we don't want to get sick, so we're making sure that we wear our mask. We
Hmm.
wear our
Hmm.
mask so that we can
Yeah.
protect ourselves. And so we
Yeah.
talk to them about that. And then, of course,
Yeah.
preteens, teens, and older, they can understand better. They can digest better. But it's
Right.
almost information to me is like a diet. You give a child just what you think may be healthy for that child at their stage in
Okay.
life. Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. Hey, listen, family out there. You need to invite people. You need to share this. You need to call your neighbor, call your friends. Let them know because I'm sure you know people that need to know this information. Everybody's got a child or know somebody. We want to let them know. Our kids have feelings too, and we need to know how to make sure we're servicing our children properly during this pandemic. Things are changing. We're on the rise and doing better, and I'm so excited about that. But this has been traumatic for
It has.
everybody, and we do not want to negate our children in this as we move forward. So I'm just happy to be having this conversation with my friend, but also someone who is capable to help us maneuver and get through. How we should help our children during this pandemic. Um, Marsha, if you would, let me ask this question too.
Okay.
In tell me how you feel about we're going some schools are opening up and we're going some schools are going back, they're going back to they're not just virtual learning anymore. But how do you think the virtual learning is going to impact our children as far as their learning development as a whole? I mean, I'm just talking about our kids because they were just about out an entire year. So our kids were at home and so that means everybody received different learning. They received their learning differently for about a
You're
year.
right.
So how do you going to impact them? I don't know if kids are being, and you may know this, if they are being everybody's going on to the next grade or not, or how they are going to uh decide if our kids are going to move forward. I don't know if they're being tested. Just kind of give us some insight on what's happening there with the school systems and where our children are in that, and what your take is regarding that.
Okay. I can tell you right now that, like you said, some kids are going back to school, but I personally have worked with some children and working with some children currently who are really struggling because they are not used to learning from, sitting in front of a screen. It has affected their grades traumatically.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that has been a challenge for them because some children, believe it or not, are very, very passionate about their grades. They want to do
Yeah.
well. They love
Yeah.
school, you know? And so
Hmm.
when they see their grades coming down, they are like, Miss Thompson, my grades are coming down. And so, I say, let's talk about that. What's going on? Well, I'm not used to learning this way. I'm used to being in
Mm.
front of the teacher. I need to be in the classroom. Like, some of them really know what they need. And you mentioned
Yeah.
that earlier, which is true. We all have different learning styles. And so
Yes.
because of
Yes.
that, we have really, this pandemic has put us all almost like in the same one size fit all, and it's not that way.
And we're not. And we're not. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not.
And we're not.
And so that has and that will affect our children. There are some that are doing some testing, some that some school districts are working on testing. I have some children right now that were tested last week, and so they felt good about their testing. So each
Hmm.
school is different, doing different things at different
Hmm.
times. But I do
Hmm.
believe that it's important for us to really see now more than ever where our children are academically, because
Yeah.
it affects them. And in the
Yeah.
long term is you don't want children to feel like they're behind. That affects them mentally and emotionally because they feel like
Yes.
I'm dumb, I don't know something. And so that works on their self esteem. And so
So what do
I
we do? Because the truth we know, and the truth of the matter
mhm,
is, we know that um, most of a lot of, I won't say most, but I will say that in the neighborhoods that are not that maybe poverty stricken, where moms have to go to work, and not just poverty stricken, but just in homes where you have to go to work, sometimes those children are not uh able. It's not that they're not capable of learning, but it's just they may need help. And because, people, moms and dads or whatever, they have to go to work. What happens to how do we still encourage our children to be okay when they are struggling? And I have to go to work.
exactly.
How do we find some help in the middle of that tension? Because then, do we I feel like you have things that happen in the home then, because you got a kid that may be cutting up, because it's really because he or she is having problems, with their work. It's not about anything other than, I'm not doing well here, and I can't get any help. So I mean, how do we help bridge that gap, get rid of some of that tension?
Right.
What do we do? What do we do? I mean, we have really found ourselves in a abnormal norm. So how do we try to make the best of this new norm that we are now in?
Um, Great question. Great insight. That was a lot, but it's the truth. It's really the truth. This is real. This is going on. Everything you just talked about is going on right now. And
Yeah. Uh-huh.
we say that it takes a village. We
Yes.
need that type of support when it comes to the parents, the
Hmm.
grandparents, the teacher, the guidance counselor, the mentor. We need
Hmm.
all of that help. We need to, as parent, I
Yeah.
talked about earlier, being present, recognize the needs of your child, not just emotional needs, but mental needs, academic needs. So if my child is struggling and really don't know how to say that, let me just sit down. As tired as I am, I just got off of work. Let me look over your homework.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Tell
Yeah.
me, how did you? That's being present.
Yeah.
That's not lashing out at the child because
Hmm.
they got something wrong. They may just don't understand, and they don't know how to. Or sometimes my children will say, "I was afraid to ask for help,"
Wow.
and so you have to
Wow.
let them know, as a parent, as a therapist, as a guidance counselor, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's okay. Right.
Yeah. One of the things I do believe, and we're about to wrap up, but one of the things I do believe is that if the big lesson that we've learned in this pandemic is about
Yeah.
that village,
Yes.
because we have needed one another, not just with
Absolutely.
our children, but
Come on.
we may need them with our families.
Yeah.
People have just been in need one with the other, and so that's the one lesson. Community,
Yeah.
village, that is
Yes.
one of the lessons that I pray people have learned from the pandemic, is
Hmm.
that we need one another.
Yes,
I
we do.
had the
Come on.
pleasure of taking one, two, three, four, five little girls with me on
Yeah.
a trip to Florida, while they were virtually schooling. And
Yeah.
I got to experience what that felt like. And that's one of the reasons why I began then to feel I don't have any kids. I'm single. I don't have any kids. But I immediately said, oh, this is hard. This is hard having five. I had four on a computer screen, and computers going down or going up and not coming up, or somebody trying to trick me and act like it wasn't going up. I can't see my teacher. Oh, yes, you can. You're just trying to act like you can't get on. I mean, but having to navigate all of
Sure.
that while at the same time I was trying to work, that was a lot. And there are people who have to do that every day.
Every single
it
day.
it made me very aware, and I became very sympathetic and empathetic to those that had to do it. And so it was in those moments that I began to reach out to others and say, hey, you need some help with this, help with that, or whatever, because I began to understand this is difficult. This is a very difficult task, and we still want our children to progress and do
Absolutely.
well,
Yeah.
while we still have to do the day-to-day things that we have to do. Well, I do want to ask people, I want to ask you a couple of questions. If people want to
Okay.
be able to get in contact with you, because our time is winding up.
Oh
We have a couple of
no.
other things that we're going to talk about, but I mean that we may be able
Okay.
to get some things, but I want to make sure I get this out. And that is, if
Okay.
people want to get in contact with you, how can they get in contact with you in regards to therapy, in regards to y'all? She's a coach, she's a pastor, uh, all anything. Listen, and let me just give you a little bit of insight. So she also is one of my best friends. Just want y'all to know, I get it all. So I get the pleasure of being coached. I get a therapist. I get a best friend. I get all of that. And but the one thing I can say is she is a woman of God, and I love the Marsha's spirit is just pure and genuine. And so what you see today is who she is. And so tell them how they can get in contact with you if they need to get in contact with you.
Okay. And then after that, I would like to share one thing after that, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
You feel free to, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It is Inspired Life underscore CC. That's
Yes.
inspired with a D, Inspired
Hmm.
Life
I think
underscore
I can
CC.
do. Yes, I think I'm doing it right. Yes. See down
Okay.
there, inspired life
Uh-huh.
underscore CC.
CC.
Yes.
If you want to go to my website, and I really invite you to go there and find out more about Inspired Life, you can go to inspiredlifellc.com.
Hmm.
Inspired Life
Inspired
L
life
LLC
LLC.com.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Yes.
you. And what was it that you wanted to share with us? Go right ahead.
In conclusion, I do want to remind you said something that was so powerful. The village is so strong, and we have to appreciate each other. Parents appreciating
Yes.
teachers, teachers appreciating parents and therapists and guidance counselors, pastors, children don't even get to go to
Absolutely.
church like they used to, and play around with
Absolutely. Absolutely.
their church friends and things like that. However,
Absolutely.
there can be some challenging times whereby you need a little extra layer of support. So I have some resources I like to give. Can I do
Okay.
that? Okay.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I want,
Hmm.
okay, the Georgia Crisis and Access number. I wanted to give that. It's a 24-hour number. Okay. Just in case someone says some depression, someone may be having some suicidal thoughts or tendencies,
Hmm.
conversations. This is a number that's available for everyone in Georgia, and that is 800 715 4225. That's 800
Hmm.
715 4225. That number is available anytime. It's available for children as well as adults.
Great.
I
As
wanted to
adults.
make
Uh-huh.
sure that I, make that known because sometimes
Absolutely.
you just need that
Absolutely.
extra layer. And I'm all about support, support, support. Have that system,
Absolutely.
have that strategy together. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am so grateful. I am thankful, thankful, thankful that we have had this talk. We are so grateful for having you as my first guest on Sound Mind. Yes, yes, yes. I'm so
It's
grateful.
all.
And I think this was a very necessary conversation because
Mhm.
we have to understand that our children really are uh, being affected and have been affected by the pandemic. And we just need to know there are some signs, there's some things we may need to look for. And sometimes our kids move on as if everything is okay, but they may not be. And we just need to know what some of those signs are. We maybe need to know how to look for those signs. And so we just want to thank you today for giving us some insight, giving us those resources, that resource that we can reach out to. And again, share this with people, um, our sound mind audience. We just want to
Yeah.
make sure that we are giving you the tools that you can have a sound mind. God said that He did not give us the spirit of fear, but of
That's
power, love, and a sound mind. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. God bless you.